The following opinions are solely those of BoatTEST.com and its test captain.
Hi, Captain Steve for BoatTEST.com, and in this video, we're going to conduct a sea trial of a full displacement expedition cruiser designed for an owner-operator to cross oceans. It's the Nordhavn N60. With a boat like this, several considerations come into play. Most importantly, safety, strength of build, and enough storage for spending weeks on board without seeing a grocery store, or for that matter, even seeing dry land. Let's start with strength. It's a fiberglass hull, but comparing it to a dayboat hull would be a mistake. The typical Nordhavn is all hand-laid. The coring is solid series of laminates, and roughly 6 to 8 weeks is spent on the hand-laying process alone, building it up to 6 inches in the bow and keel areas. And not only is nothing spared in the materials to save weight, even with the solid build process, Nordhavn even adds ballast, 21,800 pounds in the case of this 60, adding not only stability but greatly contributing to her solid feel when underway. It's like an armored tank, with a luxury feel. Let's start right off in the engine room, and because this is a different type of yacht, we get a bit technical, so bear with us. Crossing oceans takes a different tack on systems. We can access the engine room through a hatch in the cockpit or from this companionway adjacent to the galley to the lower decks. First up, outside the engine room is the crew space. It consists of a single berth with plenty of storage and a headroom of 6 feet 1 inch. A curtain can be installed for privacy. A washer and dryer are right alongside, and next to that is refrigeration. Below is a sink recessed into the granite countertop. The engine room is just ahead through a diamond sea glaze watertight door. Let's take a look. Headroom at the entrance is 5 feet 7 inches, and the light gray FRP with non-skid deck ramps upward as we move aft, dropping the headroom to 4 feet 8 inches. First off, the engine room is surgically clean. It's cooled with Dayton blowers and intakes. This is a single engine boat, with the main being a 325 horsepower John Deere connected to a straight shaft. Remember, this is about distance, not speed. I'm happy to see a stainless steel railing around the engine so we can safely make checks in the seaway, and there's a stainless storage shelf just over the engine. There's a straight shaft turning a 42 by 31.5 5-bladed bronze prop fitted with line cutters. There's a PSS shaft seal with raw water cooling from a dedicated through hull. The engine is a dry exhaust running up through the top of the on-deck stack, so there's no salt water running through the engine. It's cooled through a keel cooler heat exchange. And there's a drain valve in the exhaust bend to drain off water if she's spending time sitting. All supports are mounted to isolation mounts, and the entire exhaust is wrapped in custom insulation blankets. There are 4 main tanks with sight gauges, 2 in this compartment, all totaling 2,250 gallons. Each has a dedicated fill point on deck. There's one centerline aluminum day tank protected by stainless rails at 31 gallons, which will gravity feed from the other 4 tanks. The top part of this day tank holds approximately 2 gallons, and it's fitted with a sight gauge with a 1-gallon range and 10th gallon marks for fuel consumption checks that will be done with the supply lines turned off and fuel being consumed from this reservoir alone and not refilling. The bottom part of the reservoir holds 29 gallons, fitted with a drain at the bottom for water purging, and it includes a water sensor illuminating a light in the wheelhouse if water is present. It's fitted with draw lines for main and generator, all mounted at the lower level of the reservoir but above the water sensing probe. All return lines are plumbed back to this reservoir, which keeps consumption readings accurate. And for directing the flow, there's a very elaborate and well-labeled manifold system. Notice this hatch that contains the transfer pump, and it runs on a timer just alongside the hatch. Raycor filters are fitted to each tank, and they include isolation valves to make changeouts on the fly, and vacuum gauges are between. To the starboard side is the 110 horsepower John Deere diesel wing engine with a separate shaft driven by a ZF 2.447-1 V-drive transmission turning a Gory collapsible propeller, so it's all independent of the main shaft, fuel, electrical, and controls, completely redundant. Right alongside and within reach of the overhead hatch to the salon is a manually operated emergency bilge pump. There are 2 generators, main being 20 kilowatts, and the backup in the lazarette is a 12 kilowatt, both from Northern Lights. To the port side is all hydraulics, with the main tank located aft and separate systems all laid out just ahead for the 2 thrusters, the stabilizing fins, the anchor windlass, an emergency bilge pump, and a hydraulic 180 gallon per minute pump for the anchor washdown. There's also a Seafire system with relay box to shut down the engine, generator, and blowers. Another diamond sea glaze watertight door, this time 31 by 22 inches and 2 inches thick, leads to the lazarette. The overhead clearance here varies from 3 feet 8 inches to 4 feet, and it includes a hatch to the aft deck. To the forward bulkhead are the battery connections, and notice the wiring is not only orderly but accessible for servicing. No pulling apart bulkheads. To starboard are all the air chiller systems. There are 10 D-type house batteries connected to 2 inverters, so we can run virtually all electrical without the generators, and I mean everything. Air conditioning, washer, dryer, refrigerators, all of it. And when the batteries get down below half charge, the smaller generator automatically kicks in to recharge them. We have portside access to the steering gear, and there's an emergency steering tiller stowed here. Below the hull is a 2 3/4 inch thick rudder with 3/8 inch stainless backbone plate with tightening holes sheathed in FRP and foam. Cleats are integrated into the hawse holes in the bulwarks all around. Shore power connectivity is at the transom. A hatch just outside the VIP stateroom leads us to a mechanical room with a water maker, hot water heater, water pump. Just ahead is the expansion tank for the pressurized water, the freshwater manifolds. Below is the gray water pump. Opposite is the anchor washdown pump with the breaker panel just above. Forward is the bow thruster mechanics with another expansion tank just above. The water maker inlet and outlet valves are just to the left. We access the main helm from a set of curving stairs, and a plotting table with black formica is right at the top. It includes book storage to the inboard side with drawers right across. More drawer storage is to the front. Headroom here is 6 feet 10 inches. Decking is cherry and ebony. The Pilothouse Helm is far more than professionally laid out, and redundant systems are everywhere. The main panel is black formica and starts with the wing engine controls. Main power switches for the panel, a forward-looking depth finder, a satellite-based phone, an intership phone, the stabilizer control panel, and USB connectivity. 3 main display screens are next. Below are the windlass controls, the main engine controls, the autopilot control, the main display controls, the 2 thruster sticks, the forward-looking infrared camera control panel, a mouse and keyboard for manually inputting data into the screens. Overhead are the gray water and black water tank monitors and controls, the battery status screen, the water level gauge, controls for the anchor washdown and emergency bilge pumps, the control for the 12 kW generator, the wing engine control panel, the AIS panel, relative and apparent wind speed, a multi-data display, the primary VHF, the secondary VHF. Back to the right, the main engine control panel, the 20 kW generator controls, and light switches. There's a vertically mounted 30-inch destroyer wheel driving a Hynautic hydraulic steering system with branded copper tubing connected to a dual ram installation with a stainless steel tiller arm. To the port are the main electrical sourcing controls over the 120-volt breaker panel. To starboard is the 24-volt DC panel. The dual-stid helm chairs are the Slimline Admiral series and are fully adjustable. The 12mm thick tempered glass windshields are FRP framed and forward raked to knock down glare inside, and the sun is further blocked from the 9-inch brow overhead. There's an ultra-leather upholstered settee just behind, and notice the starburst pattern on the Pilothouse table. Storage is in the pedestal. Chart storage is under the 10-inch raised platform. Not wanting to be far away during an expedition passage, the captain's cabin is just abaft. It includes a 54 by 76 inch berth. There are plenty of windows, but no shades. Teak paneling continues. A head is right alongside that includes a walk-in shower. To port and starboard, there are 2 R250 diamond sea glaze Dutch 4-hinge doors with upper and lower dogs, in addition to deadbolts and lock sets measuring 21 inches by 72 inches, both leading out to the Portuguese bridge. Additionally, the N60 has an asymmetrical layout with a single 20-inch wide side deck to starboard, and teak decking continues. Bulwarks come up 38 inches and is protected by the overhead 6 feet 11 inches above. A midship gate opens outward. Notice when boarding from this gate there's an overhead grab handle. Being ocean capable, there are not only deck drains all along this space, but scuppers that let water out but not in. Continuing ahead, the side protection continues as we move up 4 5-inch steps. Another grab rail is fitted for going down the steps, and another rail keeps us stable in a seaway. At the top, the overhead protection is in the form of an added canvas supported by stainless framework. Another door can be used for boarding from a higher dock, and then we come again to the protected Portuguese bridge. There's a wing control station with the main engine, engine start-stop, thrusters, horn, and windlass all being operated from here. Storage is alongside, and then there's a centerline door leading to the foredeck and ground tackle, where all the decking is contrast-colored non-skid. 14-inch high bulwarks support 1 1/2 inch diameter rails that come up 36 inches. The ground tackle is on an elevated platform that still shows rail height of 27 inches. Two 14-inch cleats are just behind the windlass. 400 feet of half-inch high tensile chain runs through the Maxwell 3500 windlass, mounted on a molded FRP base and through a chain stopper. A brake is also fitted to the windlass. Fully forward is a pulpit supporting a stainless steel bow roller accommodating a 110 kilogram polished ultra anchor on a stainless steel swivel. Foot control switches are to starboard. A watertight man hatch is to port, leading to the road locker. Deck drains are to both aft corners of the platform. We access the flying bridge from the port side of the Portuguese bridge and up a set of stairs. At the aft end of the deck is a Sombrella upholstered settee wrapping around an FRP table on dual pedestals. Around to the starboard side, a small bench is added to the rails. Ahead, the helm features a center-mounted 30-inch destroyer wheel on the vertical. Two 16-inch Furuno displays flank a center panel with a Fusion stereo, the autopilot control, and a multi-data display. Remote camera controls are to the left, the track stabilizer fins control panel, the single engine control, the bow and stern thruster sticks, speaker volume control. Above is the engine displays, and the VHF. Notice that there's not a seat right behind the wheel because this yacht is not meant to be driven. It's meant to be cruising forever to faraway places on autopilot. So, the seats are more about monitoring the cruise, not driving. Those seats, by the way, dual stid low-back Admiral Helm chairs with Naugahyde upholstery and powder-coated bases. Standard seats are Todd. A tinted windscreen wraps around the front of the console. Overhead is a 12.6 by 15.5 hardtop, 6 feet 9 inches off the deck and supported by 2.5-inch stanchions. Over the salon windows to port is a swing-out flopper stopper to provide added stability while at anchor. The boat deck is accessed from the Portuguese bridge, and it's large enough to hold this 14-foot Novarina rib with a 50-horsepower Yamaha alongside a twin V-Cat with a 60-horsepower Suzuki outboard. Both are launched from a steelhead Esprit 1,500-pound davit with a full extension to 12 feet and 4-function hydraulics, allowing for launching from either side or the stern. A kayak and stand-up paddleboard racks are to the sides, and just ahead is the gas pumping station for fueling the two boats. When it came time to get underway, it was easy to maneuver this heavy yacht. Nothing happens fast, and that's the way to maneuver any boat around the dock. We first had to move the boat to an adjacent slip, and that gave me my first indication of just how well-mannered this boat is. Just nudge the shift lever in and out of gear to get her moving, and then use the momentum coupled with the thrusters to bring her in and out of the tightest confines. The weight actually becomes your friend. Also, the thruster hydraulics are powered by the wing engine, so start that up and bring the RPMs up before using the thrusters. The Nordhavn N60 has a length overall of 62 feet 6 inches, a beam of 18 feet, and a draft of 6 feet 8 inches. With an empty weight of 138,000 pounds, full fuel, water, and 3 people on board, we had an estimated test weight of 156,905 pounds. Now, here's the thing. When we went to test her, the John Deere engine display had failed and wouldn't get out of diagnostic mode, so we weren't able to get test results from the main. Nordhavn has done extensive testing on this boat, however, and here's what they report. With the single 325 horsepower John Deere run up to a max 2200 RPM, the speed topped out at 9.8 knots. Now, no one in their right mind would run her at that speed for an expedition passage. The 16-gallon-per-hour fuel burn is almost double that at 1800 RPM, while gaining only 1.1 knots. At 1800 RPM and 8.7 knots, she burns 8.7 gallons per hour and can keep running for 2,250 nautical miles. Slower at that point really adds to miles, topping out at 6,000 nautical miles at 1,000 RPM and 5.6 knots. So clearly, this boat is not about speed, but distance. Distance to cross an ocean. But how about that wing engine? That had a separate screen that worked, so let's check out how far we could go on our get-home engine. With the 100 horsepower John Deere turning a gory feathering prop, we didn't start moving until 1250 RPM because the prop blades won't release from the feather position until then. At full throttle, it was pushing us along at an impressive 5.4 knots. At that speed, the 5.7 gallon per hour fuel burn translated into 1 nautical mile per gallon and a range of 1,930.8 nautical miles. That range will climb linearly until we reach our minimum speed at 1250 RPM and 2.9 knots. There, we can keep going for a full 1,558 hours or nearly 4,538 nautical miles and still reach the destination with 10% of the boat's total fuel capacity held in reserve. Not bad for emergency backup propulsion. Normally, when weather moves in during a test, we run for shelter, but here, with the radar showing weather moving in all around us, we just didn't care. It's a Nordhavn. She remained stable and comfortable through it all. Coming back in, again, showed how nicely maneuverable this yacht is. For this approach, I wanted to give the wing control functionality a try, so I moved out to the Portuguese bridge. Maneuvering into the dock was as uneventful as the departure, with the same process proving successful. Small movements of the engine control to gain a little momentum, coupled with bursts from the thrusters. Nothing excels like a builder's reputation, and Nordhavn certainly has a lot of history of success riding on its reputation. They're capable of riding out in inclement weather, so clearly these are not dock queens. Far from it, in fact. Nordhavns have dozens of circumnavigations logged, including one that did 3 consecutive trips around the globe. With that much experience and proven reliability riding on its hulls, it's no wonder why the brand is such a popular choice for expedition cruising. And that's my full sea trial of the Nordhavn N60. For BoatTEST.com, I'm Captain Steve. We'll see you on the water.